Tonight on Ghana Connects, the big OKADA debate, ban or legalize. We take you across the continent to examine exactly how the commercial motorcycle policy has been implemented in Uganda and Rwanda. We'll look at efforts in Nigeria to ban it, and we'll glean lessons for ourselves here in Ghana. My name is Daniel Dadzie. This is Joy 99.7 FM. Connect with us on social media at Twitter at Joy997 FM. Joy 99.7 FM is the Facebook page. Do well to answer our question on Facebook, or you can send us a WhatsApp message 0244 340 437. Very soon we'll be joined by our guest Mohammed Abdullahi, a Nigerian journalist via Zoom. Awal Mohammed, chairman of Techiman OKADA Riders Association. David Amable, a Ghanaian living in Rwanda. David Kwe of the University of Ghana will be joining us in studio shortly. Christian Philip Ama, who is a medical student, will also be joining us in the studio. And Solomon Akpanaba, you just heard him on Top Story. He'll be joining us as well on the conversation. But first of all, how did we get to this point where OKADA has become the biggest issue to discuss in Ghana?
If they say they will ban OKADA, they say make business. But I say, you won't ban OKADA. How you go do?
I've been seeing young people who have finished school, they can't find a job, and so they look for something they can do. And there are many of our young people, you see them riding motorcycles and transporting people from place to place. We call them OKADA. But in our law, it says OKADA is illegal. But OKADA is a reality. It has come to stay. You can't stop it. And so I have suggested, and I say when we come into office, we'll legalize OKADA, but we'll regulate it. We'll regulate it and we'll give them training so that they are in a safe manner without costing the lives of people.
If the government makes its position clear on it, the government we are now doing stakeholder consultation on the matter, and whatever position will come out clear, we make it public to the people of Ghana to know. But as today, the position of OKADA is what is stated in 21.8.
One of the possible outcomes would be that after the consultation, if the people push for it, this government will buy into the idea.
Possibilities are not what the law says. It's what the people say. So
are you going to review the law?
I am saying that you are doing stakeholder consultation on the matter, and when you are done, you will make it public for you.
The rules go beyond just mere deployment of traffic police. We must get that understanding. So the when it's about regulations, about enforcement, not necessarily identifying the body of traffic police officers, give them training to go and stand. No, elsewhere where such experience is being practiced, it is not only traffic police officers. It is also about certain regulatory measures, sometimes institutional.
We would rather encourage the OKADA riders to come in and try to buy and lease these vehicles so that they can run businesses. They need to graduate from this risky and less safe OKADA riding to a safer means of transportation. Their problem will be a lack of capital. But if you bring in new leasing policies and we have our national ID cards with our digital addresses and so on, we can have a credit system working.
Yes, send a beya OKADA ebeya adia yadia tum se mutimi yesa ejuma no send a beya police for enhamu biom na ni ebe ni se moto ni bi ya di moto ni bi baba na mwaje no higher purchase ejesa oji ana otua kakra na otua na kakra wotua wi a na ejesa moto na ya odia.
This one is from Kofi Bentil of Imani. He says the riskiest motorbike riders are the president's dispatch riders. They keep their accidents low because they are trained to ride like that and are marked. Ignoring a problem doesn't mean you've solved it. training, regulation, strict enforcement, and proper segregation with colored helmets, jackets, and bikes will reduce
the presidential
accidents below current levels.
The money man got it wrong.
Okay, so
it's
the passengers that cause the accident.
Yes.
All right, does not cover illegality. Insurance does not cover illegality. Gentlemen, thank you ever so much for your time with us.
So that's the journey so far. It's 7 minutes past 6 p.m. You're live on Ghana Connect. My name is Daniel Dadzie. Let me introduce you to my guests once again. Mohammed Abdullah, Nigerian journalist, is joining us via Zoom. David Amable is a Ghanaian living in Rwanda. We also have Awal Mohammed, chairman of the Tishiman OKADA Riders Association, with us via Zoom. In studio with us, Christian Philipama, medical student, and David Kwe, who is a University of Ghana graduate. They are all with us in studio. Let me begin with David in Rwanda. David, please unmute your microphone for me. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, the Rwanda example of legalized commercial motorcycles has been quoted copiously here in Ghana since this debate began. Where do you stand on this? Do you think that it's really a safe way to get around the city, or Ghana can't handle it?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I think that it is something that needs proper planning, and at the moment, Ghana is not in a position to adequately handle the challenges that will arise from legalizing commercial motorcycle transport.
Interesting perspective, David. Why do you say so? What is happening in Rwanda that can't happen in Ghana?
Well, it's not a matter strictly sensu of what can happen in Ghana. I mean, the use of motorcycles here in Rwanda, for me, is something that is cultural in nature, or socio-cultural in nature, economic, and also has some geographic perspectives that you have to deal with. I mean, if you look at the terrain of Rwanda, it is beautifully called the land of 1,000 hills, because the terrain has altitudes ranging from 1,500 meters above sea level to about 2,500, and that's generally across the country. And so it makes for the terrain to be uneven, and therefore motorcycles, of course, will be better suited for such a terrain. And of course, there will be those would have to be motorcycles that are best suited for off-road transport as well. Generally, across East Africa, motorcycle transport is also, common. But Rwanda has been on this journey, I mean, since as far back as, say, 2011. And, it has taken consistent efforts at, sort of mitigating issues around road traffic offenses, accidents, and the likes. And I think that that's one of the things that you'd have to look at.
Okay.
I mean, as far back as 2012, the general vehicular population in Rwanda had motorcycles topping at about 48.6%. So that should tell you that even generally among the population, because of the terrain, it is good.
It's more common.
More common to
right.
use motorcycle.
Right. David, give me just a moment. Let me go to Nigeria and speak with our journalist colleague, Mohammed, I believe, who has joined us from Nigeria. I have an article in front of me. It's captioned, Lagos has banned its most effective methods of transport, including bike-hailing startups. Now, Mohammed, would you agree that OKADAs are the most effective means of transport in Lagos? And if they are, how's the whole city getting around without them?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for having me. It's quite unfortunate that, our governments do not actually think before putting out policies. I quite agree with you, like you mentioned earlier. OKADAs, like we popularly call them here, are very, very effective because of so many reasons. We are still grappling with dilapidated roads, and then the traffic is terrible here in Lagos. You can be in traffic for, I think, almost 4 or 5 hours, you know. So the easiest way to actually navigate the city is through motorcycles, like we say, Okada here. But government can just wake up one morning since March. Actually, I think since February this year, the government in Lagos, particularly, stopped the popular Okada, and then they went after the old pays, like we call them, those the professional ones who have all the gears, all the machineries of safety, and so on and so forth. And in fact, they were being certified by previous government. A new government come in and then change the policies and so on and so forth. So if I read clearly, some 2 or 3 weeks before then, these guys into this professional Okada thing, I tell you, expended around $1 or $2 million, and their investment is almost in vain now, because government thinks, we are building a smart city that should be, rather than just make sure these guys stick to the safety standard and so on and so forth. Because I have so many personal experiences to tell you where Okadas have saved me, the kind of job I do. Without Okadas, I would have missed a whole lot of flights in Lagos, missed a whole lot of clients. You can't walk in, say, Ikeja and catch up an appointment the same day in VI. I tell you, you have to take one. You have to either go to Ikeja appointment or go to Victoria Island, or else. If you want to meet the two, you are missing them. If you are using...
So how are you managing now? It's been banned now, Mohammed. How are you managing now?
Yes, like I said, since the government is the ultimate here, people are really, really grumbling. But people are managing, but it's actually very, very difficult. Very difficult. At the moment, we even have the third mainland being under repairs. So it means where you spend 2-3 hours in traffic, you spend about 5-6 hours more.
Right. Thank you so much. Let me just inform our listeners that, and those of us who have joined us via Facebook, that we have also been joined by Solomon Akpanaba, who is PRO for the OKADA Riders Association. But before he joins the conversation, let me come to studio and take the thoughts of Christian and David. Christian, let me begin with you. You just heard Mohammed, who he basically said, without mincing words, that governments did not think before, the government of Nigeria did not think before they banned Okada. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I think that was very harsh to say that government did not do any proper analysis before coming to that conclusion. But I think the first speaker spoke from Rwanda.
Yes, David.
David. And he made a point that Ghana can only get to the point where we can legalize Okada when we have gone through the proper analysis and discussion before we can legalize it. So from the discussion so far, if I look at what David said and what our brother is also saying, because over the days where the discussions have been going on, reference has been made to Nigeria and Rwanda, that they are the two places where Okada has been legalized, so Ghana should take a cue from them. And this is the situation where Lagos has banned Okada. So if they were doing so well, why has it been banned now? And our brother from Rwanda is also alluding to the fact that he doesn't think Ghana is prepared to face the consequences that come with legalizing Okada. So I think that we don't just have to rush into legalizing the Okada, because those countries where we're making references to, Nigeria and Rwanda, we have news from that place or those places that we need to take a back step and then do some analysis before we go ahead.
David, do you agree?
Well, of course. I agree to the fact that we need to do broader consultation with this particular one. But
I think that we are not tackling the main problem as to why, in fact, we have OKADA being the main source of, should I say, transportation in some of these countries. Now, I believe that when you go to other parts of the world where people actually patronize public transport and the likes, where they have safer means of transportation and their roads are well developed and other things, you will not even find a topic like OKADA or motorcycle being a means of transportation. Now, I believe that the problem that is rising in Africa is the fact that our transportation system is poor. It's in a deplorable state. Okay, if you go to some parts of the country, the only means you can even have access to transportation is through the means of these motorcycles. And so I think that we need to deal with the issue from the root cause, which is the deplorable nature of our roads, the ineffective transport system that you are facing in the country. And if you are able to tackle it from that angle, then we will not even start the conversation on OKADA in the first place.
Interesting thoughts. And I just had a dissertation put before me. It's actually an article by Martin Otingababio and Ernest Tajimang, the OKADA war in urban Ghana, a polemic issue or a policy mismatch. And it really alludes to what you're saying there, David, that we must look at urban transportation. It's interesting when you find that by 2030, and I would go to Mr. Akpanaba with a question on OKADA's legalization. Mr. Solomon Akpanaba, are you with us on the line?
Yes, my boss.
Great. So you've heard our friends in studio, Christian and David, talk about how it's not safe as of now, so we should not legalize OKADA in the country. Where do you stand?
We think we are disappointed, or I should say that we are actually disappointed, and we think we have not been treated well. The genesis of the whole brouhaha is the NDC manifesto issue. I don't want to go there, but if you have a better option for us, who determines what a better option is? For instance, you don't give an Akan a snake because you saw him eating a snake. It's an insult. You have to ask him why he is eating a snail, so that you sit and enjoy. Perhaps he can even convince you to stop eating snakes and join him to eat snail. So for the vice president to come out and say they have a better option for us and that option is car, we have a problem with that. If another person is also saying or speaking against regularization, all what we are saying is that the person should spell out the regularization policy so that we will get to understand that this person is actually an expert in the field. That is why we disregard any contribution from Medical Association of Ghana, because they are totally inept when it comes to rape issues. It isn't that we don't respect them, but they are not experts on the road. We cannot rely on them on issues of Ebola, issues of coronavirus, then issues of road safety. We have to depend on them. So anybody who wants to speak to this matter should tell us what he understands about regularization and why he is kicking against it. When Bureau of Public Safety is saying that regularization is the way to go, so they are endorsing it. The police service, the department that is taking care of our roads, is also endorsing regularization. Then you, an individual, whoever you are, come out to say that you kick against regularization. Tell us what you know about regularization.
Two quick questions, Mr. Akpanaba.
You are speaking out of ignorance or sheer malice.
Two quick questions, Mr. Akpanaba. First of all, you don't want cars?
Why will I want a car when I have seen numerous taxi drivers park their car and go and buy motorbike to do OKADA because there is traffic in town? He will pick passengers and see an OKADA man moving with him at the same time. When he is returning, holding his less than 20 cedis. The Okada man who took off with him with just one passenger is holding 70 or 100 Ghana cedis. Going to the village, the villagers, people in the village will not also accept the car, because if you accept the car, you gave it to him on loan. He's paying the loan. About 3 to 6 months, the car is broken down because the roads are bad. He will sell the car and go back for Okada. You have solved a problem with a problem.
Interesting. So, is this the position of the Okada Riders Association that you would rather stick with motorcycles than cars, or this is your personal position?
That is our position, and whoever thinks it is bad, he should call us for consultation.
What about the safety, Ms. Akpanaba? Isn't it safer to drive cars?
Pardon?
Isn't it safer to drive cars? The likelihood of your getting an accident is higher.
That the word safety does not rely on one person's map. If it is, road safety is the mouthpiece of this country when it comes to national or road safety. What is their outcome? They said they were doing consultation. We were earnestly expecting road safety to come. And if they had played, or they have been economical with the truth, we would have made Ghanaians to know that they have been economical with the truth.
But you see, Mr. Akpanaba, Road Safety Commission
to show that majority of Ghanaian populace are asking for Okada to be regularized. They are asking for Okada to stay.
Regardless of what Ghanaians are asking for, my question was about safety. And Road Safety Commission, if I may finish my question, Mr. Akpanaba, Road Safety Commission's position is that it is actually more dangerous to sit on the back of a motorcycle, whether commercial or private, than it is to sit in a vehicle.
That is an insult. When a minister or public figures are traveling and you see motorbikes, you see, when you do this, the government, you are making the government more discredited. For instance, if I have a sister who is married to the police officer who always ride on motorbike, and you are saying this, what will I feel? If I am a woman, my husband is a police officer who is a dispatch rider in the police service. He drive or lead ministers and appointees of government on the road. You are saying that the motorbike is unsafe. Aren't you creating fear and panic within the security service?
But you see, how we feel about it, Mr. Akpanaba, does not change the fact of the matter, does it? If facts are facts, if it's dangerous, it's dangerous. If more people have died on the back of motorbikes and cars, how we feel about it does not change it, does it?
So I want you to understand that the problems on the road concerning motorbikes is about training, it's about disciplinary mechanisms that are lacking, okay? So training lapses, disciplinary mechanisms lapse, a lot of lapses on the road that government don't need to spend money like building casual interchange and circle interchange, like providing free education and whatever freebies. These are cheap things to do without spending money. So if you don't do them and you are seeing the unsafe elements on the road, you don't blame the rider. For all you know, the rider number one may not be an Okada man. He may be an Okada man who is ready to learn but have nobody to train. He may be an Okada man who is coming from prison. And you know, when somebody is coming from prison, the psychological effects that will come to bear when the person all at a sudden becomes a rider. The person may be a driver who has parked his car and is now riding. Why did he park the car to ride? The psychological effects can create a mess. You have refused and you are running away from the fact that Ghana needs motorized training schools because you allow people to import motorbikes in large quantities, in wholesale quantities, but you are not concerned of those who are riding the motorbike.
You've made your point, Mr. Akpanaba. If you can just give me a moment, let me speak to your colleague from Techiman who has joined us via Zoom, Awal Mohammed. You are the chairman of the Techiman Okada Riders Association. Techiman is in the Bono East region, if my memory serves me well. And John Dramani Mahama has been addressing you there in that part of the country. How have you received this word, Mr. Awal? Is it just political talk, or to you, this is something that you're taking seriously? Do I have Awal Mohammed via Zoom? Please unmute your microphone and let's hear you. Right, you're live on Ghana Connect. It's 27 minutes past 6. You're trying to connect with Awal Mohammed, who is the chairman of the Okada Riders Association in Tema, and he's joining us via Zoom. I think they have a slight challenge with his connection. Mr. Mohammed, can you hear me? Great. We'll sort that out in just a moment. But David, you've heard the thoughts of particularly Mr. Akpanaba, who speaks for the PRO, who speaks for the Okada Riders Association. What do you say to this? What do you make of what he's been saying so far?
Yeah. Hello, are you referring to me?
No, Mohammed, you can go ahead. I wanted to get a word from David, but it seems like he also can't hear me. Mohammed, you go ahead.
Okay, I think rather I will agree with what Mr. David mentioned earlier, to say the remote cause of this argument is because of the transportation system we find largely in Africa, say Nigeria now, and Ghana, Rwanda. We are just mostly one mode of transportation system, which is the road. Yeah, you know, and these roads that we're talking about are in deplorable states. So, you know, you can be driving for hours, hooked up traffic, blah, 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 and so on. While, because the motorcycles are built in such a way that they can navigate traffic, they can navigate terrible roads and so on, you know, we find them much more easier to move from places to places. While I agree with you that the dangers are higher while you board the motorcycle, again, what people, I think, most people consider is that, there is risk in everything, even while driving, you know. And what the government in Nigeria, the Lagos State government is talking about mostly is because majorly they use the OKADAs for robbery, for attacks and so on, you know. So, but again, I think this is not a befitting reason to ban OKADA, in my own perspective, seriously, because it's just like saying you have a headache and you want to cut off the head. Does that solve the problem? I think because looking at the fact that OKADAs provide a lot of employment opportunities for our youth, even graduates today in Nigeria, right? OKADA, themselves and their families. Yeah.
Right. Mohammed,
so why not provide? Yeah.
Right. But has the rate of crimes gone down since February when OKADA was banned?
I can't say for sure. You know, we are dealing with myriads of problems in terms of crime. So, but I can't say for sure, and I really doubt it. Okay, there's also been several reports of crime being committed because of the terrible traffic around Lagos. People come on your doors, even while you wind up your car. They hit your car. If you don't wind down immediately, they break it to steal things and so on, and even injure people. So there have been reports of that.
Okay. Okay. Can I get to David now? David, please unmute yourself. Great. The response from here and from Nigeria has been that, from some sections at least, has been that, look, we must regulate, and it's in the regulation that we find the safety. What do you say?
Well, of course, we must regulate. I will not have a system of OKADA that is not regulated, especially if I have experienced one where regulation is key or is high on the agenda. I mean, the OKADA or the motorcycle transport is one of the elements of road transport that is regulated here by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority here in Rwanda. And so I will not for 1 minute say that we should go into OKADA business without regulation. I mean, some of the regulations are that no commercial rider should, be seen without 2 helmets, okay? Meaning that you definitely must have a helmet for your passenger. I mean, I couldn't hear the gentleman who represents the association very clearly for a while. But I think I heard in some points he was alluding to COVID-19 and the likes. I mean, for Rwanda, motorcycle transport was, shall I say, the very last form of transport that was opened up post-lockdown when COVID hit Rwanda. Reason being that the proximity of passenger and rider, creates, if you know how COVID is transferred, creates a very easy way or means of transfer of the virus from one person to another. I mean, regulation enabled that when COVID hit, all the helmets of the passengers, the additional helmets that the riders carried, the visors were taken off so that the air that is breathed in is not one that is trapped in the helmet. It's fresh air that comes into the nostrils of, and so these are some of the things that regulation will afford. But like I alluded to earlier on, Rwanda has been on this journey for over 12 years. Okay, and so it is not one that if Ghana should want to go into, I will say will see the light of day immediately. And even though it's something that has been going on for 12 years,
shouldn't we start from somewhere, David? You say Rwanda has been doing this for 12 years.
Yes.
Why can't we start in Ghana so that maybe 12 years from now we can say that Ghana has also gotten a hang of it?
You see, it's also a matter of discipline. I first started by saying that the geography of Rwanda is one thing that allows for this mode of transport. To be honest with you, transport, especially road transport within Rwanda, is such a breeze coming from Ghana. Almost every destination is about 20 minutes away from you. There's hardly traffic. Rush hour traffic doesn't mean you sit in your car for 1 hour, okay? But you still have motor transport thriving. So for Rwanda, it's not a matter of traffic. You understand? Excuse me. Ghana has a problem with discipline, and I think that is one of the things that will affect our use of OKADA, properly commercially. Even for Rwanda that we are touting, such laurels. Last year, 2019, they took on the cooperatives that form the motorcycle, union. 77 of them collaborated with the police to begin a road safety campaign, and they started at a time when just 35 people. Sorry, I'm saying just, but 35 people had died between January and March 2019, and for them that was a wake-up call to begin a road safety campaign and to enlighten their drivers.
Thanks, David. I want to go back to Techiman. Awal, can you hear me? Yeah, you'd have to unmute your microphones, Awal Mohammed, so that we can hear you. David was saying, whilst you're unmuting, David was saying that we have a problem with discipline in Ghana, and that is what differentiates us from a country like Rwanda, where OKADA is legal and regulated. Would you agree to that point?
Yeah, in a way I would agree with him. But then where there's no discipline, it means that we have allowed ourselves such that there shouldn't be that kind of discipline that we really needed. But then I do believe that for Techiman here, we have this association that will regulate our own movement. And so I do believe if the regulation comes on.
I'm sorry, Awal. There's a small challenge with your connection, and so we'll try and reconnect. Since we have Solomon Akpanaba on the phone lines, I'll take that question to him. Mr. Akpanaba, what do you say to the thought that Ghanaians are generally less disciplined than some of these other countries where OKADA is regulated?
Hello?
Yes, you're on air, Mr. Akpanaba.
Yeah, that is an insult. Whoever is saying that Ghanaians are generally indisciplined, that person needs to be deported out of this country with immediate effect. Let me give you instances where Ghanaians perform better. Go to the medical sector. You realize that younger than 30 years are better medical officers that are saving lives. Go to the media sector. You see younger guys, even sometimes, excuse my words, disabled persons that some time ago we think their lives were without any merit because of their physical disability. They are doing better in the media these days. The list can go on and go on. Look at Ghana Air Force officers.
Right.
They are sometimes released from the aircraft high in the sky to drop through the use of parachute system. They perform better. You, the leader of this country, who is lazy to train the motor riders, you are calling them indisciplined. As a matter of fact, if it is a politician who said this, it will speak voluminously on 7th December. We are of the view that the Ghanaian youth are trainable, they are disciplined, they are well organized, they can do something better.
Well, Mr. Akpana, but this is not a politician. This is David. He lives in Rwanda, and
it was an insult to say that Ghanaian youth are indisciplined.
That point is made. Thank you very much. And let me come back to studio. This thought, though, is something that we must engage with. What is in Rwanda that is not here? What is in these other countries? And I was actually just sent a link by a friend on my phone, where there's an app called the Urban Driver app, which is a motorbike taxi service. It's used in Paris, I understand, in France. So David, beginning with you, is it that we are indisciplined, that we can't apply this here?
Well, I may not generally say that we are indisciplined. Indiscipline is a trait in humans, and to be able to regulate individuals in discipline, there must be institutions that must work. Okay, the reason why I feel like there's excesses when it comes to indiscipline in some parts of the world like Ghana is because the institutions are not working. Okay, so when you get to the traffic light, okay, the policemen who are even supposed to ensure that people do not drive anyhow or drive through while the traffic light is on, they are not even concerned. You see them standing somewhere and not minding what is happening. Okay, when you go to so many offices and all that, you find that it's the laws that are not working, the institutions are not working, and once people feel that the institutions are weak, they will tend to misbehave. It is a normal human trait. It is everywhere, regardless of whether Africa or in the whites, they are not different from us. The difference is that the institutions at other parts of the world works.
It's about the institutions.
Institutions, okay? And so that is why I feel like with this whole issue about OKADA and all that, it's about making sure that we can actually, even the already existing laws that regulate motorcycles on the street, they are not enforced. Okay, so even though OKADA as it stands now, they are not legalized to operate and they are still working, you find out that they are driving on our streets without helmet. The main rider is without a helmet, and perhaps you would have the one sitting behind him with a helmet, and you have policemen standing on the street and just looking idle.
Interesting. Christian, let me read to you this text message that I got earlier, which really captures the sentiment of those who support the legalization and regulation of OKADA. And it's really about convenience, especially for users. This one is from my good friend Emmanuel Connie. He says, Daniel, about 90% of transportation mode is by motorbikes and tricycles. Is it the payment of money for the ride that makes it risky in Accra? I drive my car in Tamale because there's no traffic, but the situation in Accra is chaotic and frustrating. Anytime I'm in Accra, I wish I knew how to ride. The traffic in Accra is killing. Maybe the politicians and ministers should also join the traffic and stop using sirens and police escorts, and he would appreciate what we go through. The OKADA riders are not compelled to do their job. They're meeting a need or demand. We have cars, but choose to ride OKADA because we cannot endure the traffic. And he ends with a hashtag, I am for OKADA legalization.
Thank you, Daniel. It's interesting because everybody admits that Ghana, we have a housing deficit. And so we see that slums are springing up, should we therefore say that we should encourage the springing up of slums? We don't have to solve a problem by making it the case that we are going to bring another bigger problem in the near future. And coming from a health background, there's a point I want to make, that we spoke about discipline. The problem we have in this country is not that we do not have laws or that we lack the laws, but the biggest problem Ghana is facing currently is that we are unable to enforce the laws we have enacted. Even the road, the law that regulates these motorcycles, that is the road traffic regulation, the LI 2180, that prohibits the commercialization of OKADA, that makes room for the courier or delivery service that David was alluding to. We are not able to enforce it. If you go to Ghana Web, January 4th, 2020, the head of Department for the Accident and Emergency Center for Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Frederick Kwatin, makes interesting submission about the dangers OKADA have been posing to the hospital. Because from December 21st to December 23rd alone, out of the 30 serious road traffic accidents that were recorded in Kolebu Teaching Hospital from December 21st to 23rd December 2019, 20 of them were as a result of OKADA.
Can we say it was OKADA specific? How did they know that the passengers paid for the ride?
How did they know? Oh, because when you come to the hospital, we have something we call a history. You interrogate the patient that has come to the hospital and you are able to find out the cause, because you have to be able to distinguish between whether the person was standing somewhere and then was knocked down by the motor rider.
Right.
From December to January 2020, out of the 79 road traffic accidents that were recorded in Kolebu Teaching Hospital, 58 of them were as a result of OKADA.
Interesting. Let me read a few more of your messages, then I'll go around and begin to take final comments. A colleague of mine married in December and got one leg amputated because of OKADA. I won't read the rest of your message. I'm sorry. It's abusive. Please keep your messages circumspect when you send them into the show. He says, I blame the government for responding to the NDC on the OKADA issue. It has lifted the NDC political campaign, which was mute some weeks back. Let's take a few more. Question, why are pedestrians the highest casualties on our roads? I think it's because drivers, trucks, cars and motorcycles have no regard for pedestrians. Even in built up and commercial areas, they drive and ride as if pedestrians have no right to cross the roads. They make no efforts to control their speed to allow pedestrians to cross roads. For motorcycles, they ride as if there's a trophy for going from one place to another at breakneck speed. Good evening. OKADA must be banned because it's very risky and dangerous. We take a few more. Good evening. Come to think of this, OKADA legalization and regularizing, I think it's the best way to go. The alternative from the MPP is also not a bad idea, but it will not be applicable and feasible to all in the OKADA business. Look, there's a farming community in my village, Pando, called Dying Bigbe, where a lot of farmers commune every day by the use of OKADA because the route to their farm is one way. How then do you expect a taxi to run those routes? There are communities today that one can only visit by the use of OKADA or motorbike. What about that? Assuming the MPP's policy holds, do you think of how much drivers will charge these farmers as fare, or their filling stations will be different? Let's all digest this legalization well and see the good aspect of it than what we are doing now. Whether we like it or not, motorcycling has come to stay, hence OKADA. Do I have Awal Mohammed on the line? Okay, let me ask Mr. Akpanaba exactly what Christian brought up. So Christian here has data to suggest that at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital between December 21 and 23, there was a number of persons who died as a result of give me that number again, Christian.
I said that out of the serious road traffic accidents that were recorded, there were 30 in all. 20 of them were as a result of
OKADA, and 54 people.
And then from December to January, out of the 79, 58 were as a result of OKADA.
Out of 79 people who died?
Yes.
58 people died.
Yes.
So, Mr. Akpanaba, 58 people died at Kolebu between December and January 2020 as a result of OKADA, according to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Clearly, that's a problem that we must look at, is it not? Do I have Solomon Akpanaba on the line?
Yeah, this is Awal Mohammed.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Mohammed. Thanks for joining us. We've been trying to reconnect with you since the show began. So this point that has been raised, that as many as 58 people have died at Kolebu Teaching Hospital because of OKADA specifically, and that's what people are naming as the reason why we should not legalize it in the country. What's your response?
I disagree with my brother for that assertion that he's giving out, because if about 58 people are dying because of that, we should not legalize it for the whole nation. Is that what he's saying? Of course, there's no data, there's no official data that says that OKADA has killed about 58 people. It's not there. We don't have that official data.
Well, you see, this is what I questioned earlier.
Yes.
And he says specifically that it's OKADA. Of course, I haven't independently verified the information he put out.
So we those of us who are into that business, we reject it. And we say it's not true. It's just that people are using that one, this kind of information to try to deny us from our rights. Now, if that what he's saying is anything to go by, go and take 2019 road traffic, there's a crash. That's a road crash in 2019 alone. 2019, where there are a lot of accidents, a lot of accidents recorded, where it was in Accra, Greater Accra region, where we have about 5,481 accidents that occurred in the Greater Accra region. That place alone, if you come, there are so many so many cars than motorbikes there that they are using for either OKADA or for the private usage. Now, if you go the list where there's least accident recorded in 2019 accident rate is in the Upper West region, which we have about 155 accidents recorded. And that place, we have more motorbikes than the cars. So does that mean that it is the motorbike that is causing the accident or the cars? So this is the debate that we all have to come on and then look at it. It is rather going to tell us that the car may be the main cause of the accident if we're going to use the death or the fatality rate, like to just suppose this, for that matter, we shouldn't allow them to operate. That we think is not true, it's not factual. But rather, let's look at it. What is the relevance of it? I was following the Ugandan man and the Nigerian man. They are all talking about the accessibility of these vehicles that is used within our communities, and that it is helping us. And rather, if we get it well regulated, all these things will be something that we can minimize. But rather to stand on it and say, if you come to Techiman for one, we have about 3 types of vehicle that is running as OKADA. We have the Pradia, which is the tricycle. And then we have the Aboboya too. The Aboboya is carrying people more than, sometimes you can see about 20 people in the Aboboya bucket going to the farm. Sometimes they will carry them from the farm into the Techiman market. And all these people are people who are commuters and they are benefiting from that. Are we saying that we shouldn't regulate them and let these people have a decent work?
You see, Mr. Mohammed, regardless of whether or not people are working, you initially said that you have a right to use it. At the moment, OKADA is illegal, according to LI 2180. That means that you are operating foul, contrary to the law.
I agree. That is why the law needs to be changed so that we can do a decent work, which will not be that we are contravening the law. The law is there, and people are still working with it. So it means that the law has we have outused. It has now been outmoded, and so the people are not more interested in that law because they see that the pressure on the economy is that we need to move away and then legalize that law and regulate it so that the people can work. Look, my brother, if you check a country like India has, I think, the second highest population in Ghana. When I was in Bangalore, I studied in Bangalore, India. you realize that most of these motorbikes and tricycles is what they use there most. But are we saying that Indians are dying off, and for that matter, the population in India is reducing? No. So rather, let us come to table with a genuine case. Let's see how are we going to do this and regulate it so that the young men who are in it will do the work, so that it will not appear like, oh, they are rather doing an illegal job, which the police cannot arrest them. Government cannot also stamp their feet and then say we are abandoning them. Why don't we then regulate them and then have them on board so that we can have a measure of what? Checking them. I think it will help us there.
Okay. Awal Mohammed is the chairman of the Okada Riders Association at Techiman in the Bono East region. It's now time for us to hear a lot more from you. And my colleague Manuel Cranting is standing by with the results of the poll that we put out on social media. And Manuel, we didn't just put out one question, did we?
No, we didn't. We put out two questions, two important questions, all of them, like both of them bordering on the same topic we're discussing this evening, OKADA. So the first one is, should the use of motorbikes for commercial purposes, also known as OKADA, be legalized in Ghana? And that is the very first question. Should the use of motorbikes for commercial purposes be legalized in Ghana? And there are two options, yes and no.
And what do the results say?
Try to give you the results. So this one is on the at Joy997 FM, Joy FM's Twitter handle. And so far 793 votes. 793 votes. Out of these 793 votes, 64%, Daniel, says no. 36% say yes. And a few comments, I'll just run through a few of them. I voted yes because that's the only faster way I can get to my bus station at 5:30 a.m. before I join the company bus. Ain't easy with the kind of bad road we have at Asham and Zenu. Just the few who are voting no see this as accidental situation. We see it as a better means. This one says legalization, training and regulation sounds fair, but to make it a flagship solution to our unemployment problems bedeviling this country is crazy. Police harassment will not cease. It hasn't ceased with drivers, so why will it cease with OKADA?
Wow.
Very interesting, angle.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But that was only one of the questions that we posted.
Yes, absolutely.
Give us the other one.
I'll get you the second question. And the second question is that, will the promise to legalize the use of motorbikes for commercial purposes in Ghana affect your choice in the December polls? Will this promise affect your choice in a December poll?
Interesting.
Again, quite similar to the first poll, 65% say no and 35% say yes. And so generally a picture of more people, and this is a different number. So the first poll had 738 people voting. This one has 438, 300 less, and it's having almost the same representation in terms of votes. A few comments here. So all the passengers will use the same helmet in this COVID era. If one passenger sweats into the helmet, then the next passenger too go come wear it. Wow. They say they should rather legalize weed.
That's an interesting one. I have another texter here. He says rent should also be regulated. The law says 6 months, but landlords take 2 years rent in advance. The law says OKADA is banned, but in the rural areas, that is the only means of transportation. So legalize it and regulate it. Okay, let me take final comments from all of my guests. I'll try and take everyone's voice before we go. David, let me begin with you. Finally.
So, with my very final comment, I think that generally it's a big problem that we are faced with the issue of transportation. As I mentioned in my very initial comment, in some parts of the country you can't even use vehicles, and so the only means that you have is through the OKADA business. Okay, so the conversation is very important that we look at it in a more consultative and more open way, so that we can look at how we can actually make it work, because it is already happening. Even though it is illegal, people are still going about it, and so it means that it is something that it is with us, and so we need to look at how we can make it work so that we can save more lives and we can make sure that there is more safety attached to the operationalization of the OKADA business. And once we are able to deal with that, I think that we would, at one point in time, reduce even the use of OKADA. Because once the roads in some of these areas are fixed, once we have better public transport system and all that, generally and gradually, the rate of using OKADA will come down. And we will not even have conversation on OKADA anymore.
You see, the bigger conversation there is about avoiding traffic. If an urban space has a way of avoiding traffic, then OKADA may not be needed, because OKADA is simply a traffic avoidance tool or mechanism.
Yes, that is in the urban city.
But you see, by 2030, I was going to put this out earlier. By 2030, half of Africa's population will be living in mega cities, like Ibadan, like Accra, like Lagos, and like Kumasi and Techiman. So this is something that is coming to stay. Christian, I don't know where you stand on this. It looks like this is not a conversation that is going away.
Not at all. But we have to approach it from first principle, because we are here because page 93 of the NDC manifesto talks about the legalization of OKADA, and with your permission, I would like to read some few lines. Legalize the use of commercial motorcycles known as OKADA and tricycles, and regulate the industry to make it safer by training the riders, ensuring they observe necessary safety precautions, and mandating them to provide helmets for their passengers. That's all. And to me, if this is the social contract you want to sign with the people of Ghana, then this is very vague. We need more before we can interrogate this situation. Because when you put something, these 3 lines there, and now you invite us to interrogate the matter, and now it looks as if a section of Ghanaians are against our friends who are into this business, and it becomes a banter. It's not healthy. And
but aren't you limiting yourself to these 3 lines, because hasn't the conversation progressed beyond simply what was said in the manifesto? The NDC has engaged Ghanaians on several different occasions,
and still I do not see how they are going to regularize it. Because if you have a body such as the Ghana Medical Association, whose vice president spoke on one of your sister stations, Pure FM, just 2 days ago, making points and submissions as to why OKADA should not be legalized, I think that we have a long way to go.
Christian,
and we are not ready now to legalize OKADA.
Christian, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, that's all we'll have time for. Thank you so much to all of our guests who joined us. David Amable joined us from Rwanda. Mohammed Abdullahi joined us from Nigeria. Awal Mohammed joined us from Techiman. Solomon Akpanaba is the public relations officer for the Ghana OKADA Riders Association. David Kwe is a University of Ghana graduate, and Christian is a medical student who also came to share his perspective. My name is Daniel Dadzie. This has been Ghana Connect. Many thanks to Manuel Kranting, Evans Mensah, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, and Elton John Brobe for helping us put this together. Up next is the Locker Room with George Adi Jr. The Locker Room is at 7 p.m. with George. George, what's up?
Yeah, because normally we have First Take at this time, 7-8. First Take has a bit of a promotion. It's gone on to television now.
Oh, okay.
So Locker Room that used to be 1 to 2 is now 7 to 8.
So what time is First Take on television?
We'll be giving you more details on that. A very special show coming up. Yeah, so watch out.
Answered like we're politician. We'll give you more details a bit later, gentlemen. My name is Daniel Dadzie. It's been absolutely exciting joining you at 7 p.m. on the dot. I'm going to take just a few messages. When we come back, we enter the Locker Room.
Look at you, the big boss.